Hey everyone, this is Stevie here, and before we get into Andrew's video, I just want to say, please hit that like and subscribe button, because I'm seeing that only about 2% of you guys are actually subscribed, and you know, it helps the channel out a lot if you could subscribe. So, let's get into the video.
Hey everyone, this is Andrew with Mantis 3D Printer. Today I'll be starting a series on sketch constraints and how to use them. We're going to start off today by creating a sketch by hitting the Create Sketch button under the Create tab. We'll then select this top face here, and then up in our view cube we can just select the top line and that'll look at the sketch for us. Another option to look at the sketch is that there's a Look At button under our sketch palette, which will always just bring us to looking at the dead center of the sketch every time. So if you ever get moved away and you're off center and you hit Look At, it'll bring us right back to center. So the three constraints that we're going to look at today are coincident, tangent, and parallel. But first I'm going to go over some general constraint usage. So I'm just going to hit the L button and draw two lines. The two are just randomly in space. But I'm going to apply a coincident constraint and then I'll come back and explain what I was doing with that. I'm going to show you the three ways that you can do this. So you can either select the two things in your model that will be constrained and then hit the constraint button. Hit Control Z to undo that. Or you can hit your constraint button and then select your things. Or you can select your things and then right click, and the available constraints, which are the same as the ones that are not grayed out up here, will show in your context menu when you right click, and then you can select them from there. If you have a fast enough computer that brings up that right click real fast, that can often be the fastest way to work. So these two lines, we're going to start in with the sketch constraint, with the coincident sketch constraint. If I select 2 points and hit the coincident constraint, that'll make those 2 points stay in the same spot as each other at all times. So what this means is that if I hit coincident, no matter where one of those points is, the other point will always follow it. So along those same lines, if I select a line and a point instead of a point and a point, if I select this point and this line and hit coincident, it will make sure that this point always stays along that line. So you can see that as I bring this line, you can imagine this line extending past, it always stays on there, whether or not they're touching each other. And then one other thing that you can do is if you have something like a circle or an arc, and I'll draw a couple more lines here to show you. You can select your circle and your point, or your arc and your point, and it'll make them coincident, which means that this point will always stay along this arc or along this circle. So what I'm going to do is delete everything but that line and that circle and move into the tangent constraint. We'll then actually use our coincident constraint one more time to select this center point and your origin, and then hit coincident, and that'll bring that circle onto that origin. So now we have a line which is completely unconstrained, save for being coincident to this circle. You notice as we drag it around, when it seems like it's getting pretty close to even in tangent with this, it snaps and you see the tangent symbol appear there for a second. That's Fusion trying to snap into place for us and make things easy. You also notice the same thing when I get it near vertical, it snaps to vertical and horizontal as well. But since we're manually applying constraints, I'll leave it here. I'll select this line and this circle and then hit tangent, and that'll make that line tangent to it. So now this line will always stay tangent with this circle, and you can do the same thing with an arc or a spline curve, whatever you're drawing. If it's a curved surface or a curved shape in your sketch, then you can make a line tangent to it. What we'll then do to show another functionality of it is delete this coincident constraint by clicking on the constraint and hitting the delete key. And you can see that even if your line doesn't end on the circle, it can still be tangent to it. So I'll select and delete these two before showing one last thing. If we go and make a 3-point arc and another 3-point arc, it's actually possible to make two curves tangent to each other as well. So I can drag these two until they touch each other, which will make a coincident constraint between them. But you'll notice these lines don't flow into each other well. So if I select this line, then hit Shift and select this line to select both of them, I can then hit the tangent button and it'll make them tangent to each other so that no matter how I resize them, these two will stay tangent. This can be very useful if you're making a transition between two lines and you want it to be nicer. From there, we can now show you the parallel constraint. This one is exactly what it sounds like. If I have two lines that aren't parallel to each other, accidentally drew two lines there. What I can do is I can select both of the lines. Once again, you hold Shift to select both lines and then hit parallel and it'll make them parallel to each other. It does exactly what it sounds like. And it's very useful when you want two lines to be flowing parallel to each other over a part of your model. If I hit Ctrl Z a couple times, it'll undo that. So I can show you how to combine a few of these. We'll draw a circle and then we'll bring this line in and select that point and this circle and hit coincident and do the same thing here. Now that I've hit coincident for one, I'm now in that tool and I can just select this point and this circle. And you can see that these two are kind of willy-nilly all over the place here. So I'll select these two, hit tangent, then I'll select these two to tangent. And now I can select these two and hit parallel, and those two will be parallel to each other. This is very handy if you want something on the end with a rounded end and you want two parallel lines coming off of it.